Hi, I'm Kaye Wood, and I'm going to show you how to view and do. What does that mean? Well, I've designed some view and do shapes so that we can actually view something and then do something with it. And the first thing we're going to take a look at is how we can fussy cut. Now, if that's a term that's new to you, it only means that we're going to take either a photo or a printed fabric and we're going to put the shape exactly where we want it, or the design exactly where we want it inside the shape. And you can see I have some wolves here. We also can take some embroidery designs. Right here we have an embroidery block with the A, B, and C. So if you have embroidery machines, this is a great technique, and I'll show you how to fussy cut. Let's take a look now at how we'll do that. First of all, we'll take the first shape we have, and that's a hexagon. And if we'll take the hexagon shape, open it up. It's in 4 parts. We'll open it up and lay the hexagon on the printed fabric, the photo on fabric, or the embroidery design. Put the design right where we want it, and then rotary cut around the shape. And in this case, we have a perfect hexagon, and our fabric design's exactly where we want it, which is what fussy cut means. All right, let's take a look at this piece. This is a heart that we're going to fussy cut. We'll put the flowers exactly where we want it. So let's take the flower fabric, and because it's a heart, we want to use the heart shape, and I'll place it right here. And you can put either flowers, maybe you'll want them just coming in off the side. Maybe you'll want it in the center. But in this case, I want to cut it the size that's inside this opening. Well, if you've used rotary cutters a lot, you know that that's pretty difficult to do, the inside corners. So I've designed these tools so that after you put your design exactly where you want it, you can take the next size, put that in here, remove the outside. Now when you rotary cut around it, you have your heart or whatever shape you want ready to work with. Let's take a look at this fabric. This is a potted, I call it a potted fabric. I found this, and I want to do this with a circle. And so I'm going to take my circle shape, open it up, and put it here. Now, do I want it that size? Either the outside, the inside. And again, you know, if you wanted the inside, you would put the next smaller size in, remove the outer size. Or we can even go down and let's find a design that would fit in here. Here we've got a little, I guess it's a man, I'm not sure what that design is, but if you wanted him to be in center focus, then you put the smaller size in again and take this off. Now I will give you a tip. These shapes, the view and do shapes, are made to be used with the rotary cutter. But when you get into the circle and the heart, you might find it easier to just draw around the curve edge and then either sew it or cut it, depending on how you're going to finish it. With the hexagon and the octagon and the diamond, it's easier to use the rotary cutter. So whatever works best for you. All right, let's take a look now at some octagon shapes. Here I have fabric. This time I want to cut it into an octagon. Here we have our octagon right here. We take the octagon shape and decide what size we want, line up our pieces, and once again, I wanted the smaller inside. Put the smaller piece in, remove the outside, rotary cut around it, and you have your octagon shape. Now let's take a look at this piece. This is an octagon. Here we go, and here. And I wanted to show you this because so far we've centered a design within a shape. Well, look at this poor little bird. He doesn't have the rest of his body here. And sometimes that's the look that you want to get. So let's take a look at why we might use that sometime. Look at this piece of fabric I have here. I'm going to take my octagon shape. This bird looks like he'd be wasted with the fabric. But see here, if we cut it, we get him positioned exactly the way we want. And so, you know, don't just think of centering your design. Think about the visual effect. And also think about using pieces left right at the selvage edge, because sometimes they make your piece more effective. All right, now we're going to take a look at the diamond shape. The diamond shape is a little bit different, and this is what we would use for tumbling blocks. Let's just open this piece up right here. Now, the thing about cutting diamonds for tumbling blocks is that you have a top diamond, you have a left diamond, and you have a right diamond. And they have to be cut directionally, or your dolphins or whatever are going to be swimming on their nose or upside down. And while you may want that, it might not be the best thing. So I have a piece of fabric here. I wanted to show you how we're going to take advantage of that. Here I have a fabric, this time with whales. Okay, we'll take the diamond shape, and for our top diamond, I want to cut the largest piece. But we take our diamond shape right here, and the top diamond, the design in it, or the embroidery, or the photo, should be lined up with the T line on the shape itself. T for top. Our left diamond, you would cut it so that the L lines up with the design. And our right side diamond would be lined up so that the R lines up with the design in the fabric. And that way everybody swims the way they're supposed to swim, or the flowers bloom the way they're supposed to bloom. So that's just a little tip that'll help you get those pieces. Now, in addition to fussy cutting, how about if you have a quilt block left over that you've made and it doesn't quite fit into what you want to do? Think about cutting it into a shape and then making it into a project. In this case, we're going to work with the heart. And I'm going to line up my heart shape this way with the block. And I have a little room to move it around. And then I can cut it either on the outside. If I want the inside size, I'd put the next smaller one in, cut around it. Keeping in mind that when you have a curved edge, sometimes it's easier to draw a line and then cut it. But I did want to show you this. Right here at the tip of the heart, there's like what we call a teardrop. And I designed that so that your tiny rotary cutter can get almost into that outside point of the heart. All right, when we cut our piece then, here we have a heart made of the pieces. And so this is another project besides the fussy cutting that we can incorporate into our quilts. Let's take a look at how we can make divided pieces. For this particular heart, I took 2 strips of fabric and sewed them together. I'm going to use a piece of easy under and just pin that right to the right side of my strip. Then take the heart shape, the size that I've determined I want, and line it up so that the seam line is right on the line of the view and do heart. And trace around, and I just use a pen because this will be coming off. Just trace around the curve of the heart shape at the top, take my rotary cutter, and the straight edge I'm just going to cut. The next step would be stitch around your drawn line, trim it, turn it right side out, and we have a heart that has a turned under edge with the easy under. And let's take a look at the quilt that I made using these hearts. Now we have to get to how to finish the edges. We've got the shape, so we've got them cut. We've talked about a couple different ways that we can cut. And first of all, we can leave the edges raw. Here I have one of the blocks for my pot, I call it my pot quilt. Take a look at the quilt and you'll see that there are some 4-inch pot circles, some 6-inch, some 8-inch. And what I've done here is just layer the pieces on. Whatever is the fussy cut pot shape is the one that's on top. So on some of the blocks, it's just one circle. And so this is a raw edge. You can fringe it or leave it the way it is. That's one way we can finish them. Here we have our wolf shape that we have here on where I've got the 3 shapes on that wall hanging. In this case, I've finished it with some fusible bias tape. So there's raw edges under there, but they're covered over with the bias tape. We can finish the edges with lace. Here I have a design. I have my heart shape, and I've sewn lace right sides together to the curved edge of the heart. Press the seam allowance to the back, lay it on top of a square of fabric so the edges are lined up, and then I'm going to stitch in the ditch between the lace and the fan. So it's a way of applique, but you really don't see any applique stitches. Now, on the part of the heart where we have the curved edge, I use the easy under again. And you can see it doesn't add any bulk, and you get a nice smooth curve. And so that's ready to also put onto our block, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We can sometimes take a whole piece or a whole shape. This time I've used the easy under. I've taken the heart and just laid it on top of the easy under, lining up the seam lines with the lines on the shape, trace around it, stitch around on the drawn line, just cut a piece so I can turn it, trim the seam allowances, turn it right side out. You can see where I've trimmed this away. And when it's right side out, then I have a nice finished edge all the way around the heart. And then we'll be doing something with those kinds of hearts. Here we have a circle. And this one's going to be a drunkard's path, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But right now we're just finishing the edges. I've taken a piece of the easy under, and I've taken the large circle shape. And this time I'm going to draw around 2 parts, the inside and the outside of the heart. The outside is a stitching line. The inside I'm going to cut away. So when we turn it right side out, it looks like a donut on the back. And that allows us to applique that shape. We also can work with our octagon shape. Again, in this case, I've drawn around the outside and the inside. Sew around the outside, trim it, cut this inside, turn it, and again we have nice smooth edges so that we can go on and applique. We can also face our pieces. And in this case, I'm taking circles, and I'm going to take a smaller circle here. I have 2 pieces right sides together, 2 pieces of fabric, a light and a dark purple. I'm going to take the circle and draw around the outside and the inside, just like I did with the easy under to get it ready to applique. This time it'll be faced. We stitch around the outside, trim the inside, cut off the seam allowances, turn it right side out, And now we have a circle like this, but we have another color underneath, and that gives us some texture to our quilts when we use that technique. Here we have another heart shape. Again, the easy under on the curved edge. Turn it, and we have it all ready to use. Another way we can finish the edges, in this case, we've just put our shape on, taken a piece of trim, covered the raw edge with the trim, and we get a nice, fun shape to put into our quilts. All right, now that we've finished the edges, now that we've fussy cut or cut our pieces however we want, what do we do with them? Well, we can add borders to our pieces. Here I have a piece. This is from my book, Stars Made Simple. You can take a look at the whole quilt. But here we have our hexagon in the middle. We've done something a little different to our hexagon. We've put triangles on top of it so that it gives us the effect of a star. And what we'll do then is to add strips so that we can add borders to it. Now this was done with a hexagon shape. So when I sew strips on, border strips, we need a way to cut these accurately at the angle. So anytime we have the Star Maker or the View and Do hexagon, we can switch to using the Star Maker 6, and we can just line it up with the outside edge of the hexagon and continue our cut. And we have perfect angles on each end of our strip. And we go on and add more borders doing the same thing, lining up the Star Maker 6 with the outside of the hexagon and trimming our edges. This way we know that our angles are always accurate. So we can go on then and make placemats and quilts and just a lot of different things. Now there are times when you might want to take a traditional pattern. In this case, we're going to take